Senator King,
you're recognized.
You mentioned that the principles of theft, murder, bearing false witness, etc., those are fundamental, and you commented that every parent should be comfortable. Yeah, it's hard to hear in here.
Members, we need a little order over there, especially with the author right near your desk. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator King, you're not representing that the concepts of it being wrong to murder and wrong to steal and wrong to bear false witness are unique to the Judeo-Christian tradition, are you?
No, not at all.
No, it's common to every religion, every non-religion, every society on earth has held those values and holds those values, correct?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, we look at Hamas and what they did to Israel on October 7th and so many other examples of terrible atrocities where there's cultures that have no regard for human life.
But bad things have happened in every country, England, the United States, but generally those are not uniquely Judeo-Christian principles. I guess we could just leave it at that. We agree there?
I'll agree that all civilized societies have had a moral code generally against harming other people.
Is there a risk if we post the 10 Commandments in every classroom and every public school that children will come to believe that those common values, those common traditions are the origin of the Judeo-Christian tradition? That there will be some sort of false attribution? And therefore some sort of implicit prejudice to alternative faith traditions?
I wouldn't see that coming out of the 10 Commandments being posted.
Okay. The Ten Commandments version that the statute proposes, or that the bill proposes, you've explained is based on what's out on the Capitol grounds. I appreciate that. To my knowledge, there are 21 versions, roughly 21 recognized versions of the Ten Commandment translations. Do we now have 22? Is this the Texas version of the Ten Commandments?
You know, actually, the history on where it came from, you remember the movie Moses?
Yes.
Cecil B. DeMille and Charlton Heston. So it was one of the most widely watched movies in American history. And afterwards, actually it was the Fraternal Order of Eagles, I believe. And with Cecil B. DeMille and with Charlton Heston, they raised funds and they distributed thousands and thousands of copies of the Ten Commandments, and then also went around the country and put those on state capitals and maybe some other public facilities as well. But ours was actually dedicated. Charlton Heston came to the dedication, and they were doing that all across the country after the movie.
And I mean this in all seriousness. That's a super cool story, and I'm glad to know it. Are we going to? I mean it.
It's part of history and tradition.
Are we going to put an asterisk on the display in schools mentioning to them that this is the one that Charlton Heston distributed after he did the film Moses? Or are we representing to the students that this is, quote, the version of the Ten Commandments?
It's going to be represented that it is a translation, a version of the Ten Commandments.
Okay. Thank you. Some other members, Senator Menendez had a brave conversation with you about some of the contents of the Ten Commandments. We talked, there was discussion of the words adultery, discussion of the word slavery, I think, with Senator Gutierrez there. I think you acknowledged that there were certain translations that instead of saying manservant, they said manslave. Is that true?
I think some just say slave, some say servant, I believe.
Why did you choose the one that says servant instead of slave?
So again, I actually started to go with one of the more modern translations, like the King James Version. That was translated in like 1604 or 7 or whatever it was.
Right.
At the direction of King James. And, you know, it's 16th century English, right? And there's been different translations as dialects and English dialects have changed. And I started to go with a more modern translation. But again, I also was trying to reflect the history and tradition and the impact that the Ten Commandments have had on Western civilization and particularly American jurisprudence, American moral code, just our culture. And so I decided to go with the with the language that had already been tested in the courts and up before the courts. And again, we had the unique situation of we have a monument of the Ten Commandments on the Texas Capitol grounds.
So you've imbued a historical document with meaning and context from our experience today. Is that fair to say?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
You have imbued a historical document with meaning derived from the context of our lives today.
I'm not sure I understand.
I'm totally setting a trap for you. This is exactly what our Supreme Court Justice
That's why
said.
I'm not understanding the question. I apologize.
Well, okay, so I'll lay it out a little more thoroughly. There is more than one translation of the Ten Commandments. Some people interpret the words to be manservant, others say it's slaves. You've even gone so far as to say it could be employees, right? Because that's based on our experience today. It's consistent with our Texas history.
Someone who's in a subservient position to another.
Right. So you're actually interpreting this text in a way that our Supreme Court Justice said we should never do with the U.S. Constitution.
I'm not interpreting the text. I'm simply taking the text that was on the Kentucky monument, taking the text that is on the Texas monument, which has already been approved by the U.S. Supreme Court, and putting it on into the bill.
Those texts don't say employee, do they?
Well, nowhere in it do I have any definitions.
Well, I am suggesting that you're interpreting a historical document, making it a living document, which I applaud. I think we ought to be thinking about our Constitution in that respect. But since we're going to interpret things, I think we sometimes have to look at the literal words of an ancient text and give it meaning in our current context. So when it says, for example, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, I suppose the same prohibition applies to husbands. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's husband, or is that an exception?
You know, I think it'd be great if in the classroom, maybe a better example, if a student asks, what is a manservant or a maidservant? It's a wonderful opportunity for that teacher to talk about the evils of slavery and the difference between servitude and slavery. And I think it opens the door for that for teachers wonderfully.
Honestly, I couldn't agree more. Right? If it talks about thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, and somebody wants to know, can you covet thy neighbor's husband? What if it's two men? You could have a discussion about same-sex relations in the classroom, perhaps.
I'm not going there. I'm sorry.
Well, I did, and I just wondered, I have a bill that gets rid of gender references in our marital statutes. Can we interpret those?
And it's going to be, I guess that teacher's going to have to deal with what a husband and a wife is. I think most of them would say male and female.
Okay.
And that's what our the president's recently declared, male and female. And I think that, there's no perfect answer to everything, but I think when the children go into that classroom, I think our kids are crying out for moral clarity, crying out for it. And I think it's so important for them to walk in and see something that has been part of our tradition and been part of our history for as far back as they'll read, almost as far back as they'll read in studying world history, and to see how that went through the ages, and here it is today in a Texas classroom, and yes, it is wrong to steal, and it is wrong to kill, and you are to respect your parents, and et cetera, et cetera.
And should they see that in trig class?
In trig class?
Trigonometry. And should the trigonometry teacher engage in a conversation with the students about the meaning of the Ten Commandments?
Well, I hope it will also, encourage those kids to respect their teachers, and that's important in every classroom.
Is that in the list of 10?
No, but it is a moral code. It's about rules and ethics and how we behave in a civilized society, and that certainly translates into the classroom, I would think.
Well, Senator King, I think you and I probably disagree. Agree fundamentally that people are searching for more moral clarity, that these questions about the Ten Commandments, religious texts, other moral questions are things that should be discussed in school, but for them to be displayed in a single document that diverges from even Christian faiths and Judeo-Christian faith and Jewish faiths in every classroom is probably not the right vehicle unless we are going to have a religious instruction course, a course in comparative religions in every classroom. Then it might be a fantastic document. Or Origins of the American Constitution, and you could reference back to the Ten Commandments and its effects on the thoughts of our founders. All that would be fantastic. But to be placed in every single classroom, I think, is not the proper vehicle, and I'll save the rest of this for a statement on the bill. I appreciate your vision and your intentions here. I just think we're going about it the wrong way.
Thank you.